This video is to summarize Investigation 1B, and Investigation 1B was about constructing, and we constructed a lot of different figures using different tools such as compass, straight edge, protractors, paper folding. That's actually a new one. You know, if you fold the paper into half, you can divide it into two. So the paper folding, if we fold it into so that one segment matches to the other, you know, we are bisecting the segment. That's very easy to do that. And also, if you draw a paper, if you have, let's say we have a paper, and if you draw segments, and if you fold it so that this dot will be on this dot on top of each other, then that line will be perpendicular bisector of this segment, although it doesn't look like it, but it should be. And also, if you have some kind of shape, for example, if you have, if you fold it into half, and if one side matches fit on top of each other completely, that's going to be a symmetry. And the folding line will be the line of symmetry. And some terms we went over: midpoint. Midpoint is any segment. So you take the point in the middle, that's midpoint. Perpendicular bisector is the line that divide a segment into exactly two, and also it intersects at 90 degrees. That's the perpendicular bisector. Altitude is basically it's the height of a figure. For example, for triangle, height will be this. If you have this kind of triangle, then the height will be that. That's the altitude. Instead of saying altitude, instead of height, we say altitude. Angle bisector, that's the bisector. That bisect means the line that divides into two. So let's say we have this kind of angle, and let's say this is 40 degrees. Then angle bisector will be a straight line segment or line, so that one side of that segment will be 20 degrees and the other side will be 20 degrees. So you're dividing the angle into two. So that's the angle bisector. Median is let's say you have any shape and you take one midpoint and then you draw a line from opposite vertex, and we call this line median. Okay? Median in geometry is the line segment from one vertex to the opposite midpoint. Median in statistics means a little different, but median in geometry means that way. Midpoint, we already did that, so we don't have to go. We don't have to go through that. Equidistance means the distance will be the same. So, for example, if you have two points, and let's say you take equidistant point C from A and from B, that tells us that the distance from AC will be the same as BC. And we use that concept for Theorem 1.1. So let's go over Theorem 1.1. It tells us that Theorem 1.1, that's the perpendicular bisector theorem. That means that tells us that each point on the perpendicular bisector. So let's say you have perpendicular bisector. Let's say we have line segment AB, and we have perpendicular bisector. Let's say CD. So that means the length let's say intersection right there is D. That tells us that the distance from DA and DB will be exactly the same. Also, it meet at 90 degrees. So Theorem 1.1 says if you take any points on the line, the distance from A to that point you choose, and the point to the B will be exactly the same. So let's say we take this point, let's say, I don't know, E. If we take that point, distance from AE will be exactly the same as EB. Also, if you take some other points, as long as you take the points from perpendicular bisector, then the distance from that point to A and distance from that point to B will be exactly the same. The converse will be if you have let's say you have a segment AB, and then if you take points that is exactly equidistant point from A and B. So for example, let's say this is equidistance from A and B. Okay? If you keep taking those points, let's say right here, that's going to be equidistance from AB. From here, let's say equidistant AB. And if you connect all those lines, that will be perpendicular bisector. So that's the converse. Here and here we say if you take any points on perpendicular bisector, that's going to be equidistant from A and B. From here the converse will be if you take any points that is equidistant from A and B, and if you connect that points, then that's going to be perpendicular bisector. And that's, if you understand those things, and you should be fine. Oh, actually, I didn't go through midline. Okay, so let me just go through that. Midline is the line that connecting two midpoints. So that's the midline. Don't get confused with median. Median will be connecting vertex to the midpoint. That's the median. And if you connect two midpoints, that's the midline.